Hello, everyone. Lisa Keeler here as part of my campaign for Whatcom County Superior Court Judge. Just waiting a moment for our feed to get going. So I'll keep checking in. Again, this is Lisa Keeler as part of my campaign for Whatcom County Superior Court Judge. As promised, we are here for my digital kickoff. Of course, as everyone knows, we're still in the midst of stay home, stay healthy orders here in Washington State and many places across the country. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your time on a Friday afternoon and sharing your happy hour. I hope everyone is well. I hope your families are well and coping with everything that's going on. I know we're all nervous and anticipating new orders about when we can start reopening things and slowly kind of phase back in all our normal activities. So know that I too have the same anxieties, and I too am trying to pay attention and follow what's going on. So today I have a few things that I want to chat about tonight. It's a little different format from a normal kickoff. Normally we'd have a room full of hundreds of people. Can't do that, but I'm glad that we're all together in this digital world. I want to talk about why I'm running, share a little bit about my background and why I'm best qualified to be Superior Court Judge here in Whatcom County, share some COVID-19 employment resources. That's one of the areas I practice in, and I've been staying on top of that. So I have some updates I want to share. And then answer some questions. We got questions ahead of time, and we are monitoring questions right now. So stay with us. I'll work through that. I think we'll be relatively brief. I don't want to take too much of everyone's time, but I also want to make sure I'm responsive to any questions we get. So we'll stay alive for as long as we can. So why am I running? I care about people. I want to be of service to our community. And I believe I have the skills to manage the cases and decisions inside the courtroom and also do the work necessary to improve our legal system and improve access to justice. So let's talk a little bit more about those things. People. One of my earlier videos, I talked about how important it is to remember all the people behind every case. And I certainly think about that each time I work with clients, or I'm lucky enough to serve as a pro tem commissioner, or I'm arbitrating a case. Right now, I have so many clients who are municipalities or businesses or workers, and that's the backbone of our society, right? It's people. And right now, everybody's working so hard to take care of each other, to cope, and to just survive all of this. So number one is just care for people. Two, like I said, driven by service. That's always been my primary motivator as a person. I spend a lot of time engaging in my community, serving my church community, spending a lot of time on nonprofit boards around the state and also locally, and just wanting to use whatever skills I'm lucky enough to have to serve other people. And then finally, improving systems and our legal system in particular. I've been lucky enough to work with lots of people over the years who have given me training and skills in strategic planning. I've had the opportunity to do that with nonprofits. And I like improving systems. I like improving organizations. I like problem solving, identifying areas where we can tweak something or completely overhaul something. So not only do I have the ability, but also the energy to take on all the hard work that a Superior Court judge needs to do in the courtroom, but also to do what's necessary to improve what's going on outside the courtroom and to improve our system. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is just my background and why I'm best qualified to serve as Superior Court Judge. I started my career and have spent it serving Whatcom County, having a practice based here in Whatcom County, specifically in Bellingham. I started out at the state attorney general's office, and I worked really hard to serve every single client agency that I could. I did child protective services work. I did adult protective services work. I managed workers' compensation cases, but then also the employer services side, handling tax premium audits. So those are the taxes that you pay for L&I. I handled unemployment law cases and appeals for the Attorney General's office. I also helped occasionally with a whole slew of other cases. For many years, I hired and trained all of our law clerks. And so I guided them through the work that we did, sometimes with our university or community college clients, or just working on lots of different cases, from Department of Licensing, driver's license revocations, which are the civil side of DUIs, very similar to DUI cases, some of the same technical issues and legal and constitutional issues. And then I did all sorts of things outside of my legal work. I helped with some strategic planning for that organization and that giant law firm around the state. And then I was lucky enough to transition into private practice, where I still am today with Carmichael Clark, the oldest law firm in Whatcom County. It used to be Zender Thurston and had many names before that. I'm really lucky to do a lot of different kinds of work for Carmichael Clark. I handle civil litigation cases, everything from real estate to probate to some family law work. I get to back up as the prosecutor for the city of Linden. I get to help advise a number of municipal organizations. And then as soon as I transitioned out of the AG's office and it was possible for me to do this, I was asked by one of our former court commissioners to start pro temming. And so I had the opportunity to do that. So to do some work from the bench on occasion. And more recently, I was admitted as one of our mandatory arbitration arbitrators. So I'm now occasionally asked to arbitrate cases, which is essentially a process for having a hearing and a decision outside the court system to try to alleviate some of the work on the courts. I can't even think of all the different types of work I have done. I've touched on almost every type of case that might come before a superior court judge. Now, some of them, it's just been a little bit of experience, and others, it has been a lot of experience, but it's been very, very broad. Civil cases, family law cases, probate matters, some criminal work, and the whole gamut of everything that might come before a superior court judge. I'm decisive. I'm firm. I believe I'm fair. And I think for all those reasons, including just all this experience I have, I believe I'm most qualified to be a superior court judge. The other thing, of course, is I stay involved in my community. One of the organizations I've been most involved with is Law Advocates, which is our volunteer lawyer program here in Whatcom County. I've been on their board of directors for many years. Back when I was serving with the Attorney General's office, like many government lawyers, I was worried about conflicts of interest in doing direct representation, so actually taking on clients for them. So I found other ways to get involved. I helped with their fundraising committee and putting on the big event of the year, and then eventually was lucky enough to transition into the board of directors role. And just a few years ago, I was chair of the board of directors and walked them through a long strategic plan process. Again, it's an organization that cares a lot about access to justice and serving those in our community who cannot afford an attorney. And people really need the assistance of counsel. It is not easy to navigate the legal system. People can certainly do it on their own, but you're almost always better off with a little bit of help. And I'm lucky enough that I have both the skills as an attorney, the skills as an administrator and an executive, to do that work and to think big picture on what we can do to improve our legal system and to improve access to justice. So again, I've been very involved in our community. I want to continue to do that, and now hopefully in a new role. So as promised, again, moving on to our next topic tonight. Hopefully everyone's following along and I'm not going too fast. But as I mentioned, one of the areas of law that I practice in is employment law. I represent businesses, municipalities, and workers as well. And so with everything that's going on with COVID-19, I've done everything I can to both still do my job, and I'm really lucky because I'm still able to do my job. I can work from home for the most part. I have, I guess, access to what I need, and I can still serve my clients. But on top of that, I think I've done 9 different trainings over the last 3 weeks related to COVID-19, supports for businesses, for workers, interesting webinars on the impact on communities of color and our Native American tribes, and then just general resources. So I wanted to highlight a few things that I've come across lately, or some of the big topics as they develop. One of the first is tax refunds. And these are essentially a prepaid credit that the IRS is giving out as part of, I believe this one's the CARES Act. So these up to $1,200 per person, plus dependent payments, those are coming out now. So if you file electronically or have direct deposits set up with the IRS, and it's based on your 2018 and or 2019 filings, then your money should be coming into direct deposit. The nice thing new this week is the IRS has launched a portal that you can access to, 1, check on your status, or 2, set up direct deposit payment if you do not already have that. So that's irs.gov. Again, irs.gov. And you'll be able to navigate easily from there to the COVID-19 pages and this portal. And that's really important because if you need the money now, and I think most of us do, the quickest way to get it is direct deposit. If you are not a filer, so if you are what's considered a non-filer, either because you are on SSI or SSD or SSA or one of those SS next letter programs, or you are below a certain threshold for paying of taxes, you can go on to that same website as a non-filer into that same portal and put in the information needed. So for example, if you are a grandparent and your income is coming from SSI or some other form where you're not being required to file returns, your money is set to still go in your direct deposit for your payee account. That's the same for people on disability as well. The money will automatically go into your payee account. But if you need to now declare a dependent because you're caring for, say, a grandchild, you can do that through this portal site. Because normally you wouldn't, that's not something you would be dealing with as part of your tax planning. But go on to irs.gov, input the new information, and if not that, check on your status. So I did it for myself. I checked, they said, hey, we direct deposited yesterday. I opened up my bank account and I can confirm that. So it's a huge, huge progression that has happened with the IRS to, 1, get money to people quicker, and 2, give them a way to determine what's going on with those economic impact payments. That's the official term. There's, of course, also lots of scammers out there trying to collect your money, trying to get you to divert your money, trying to get you to pay for you to get that money. That none of that should be going on. You should not have to pay anyone to get this money. Go directly to the IRS. use that as your source. Don't be swayed by something claiming to be some other stimulus check. That's why they're using this term, which is the term in the law, which is economic impact payments. And again, go directly to the source. The next thing I want to talk about is unemployment resources. Now, this one is huge, right? We have so many people who have been furloughed, who have been terminated, or who, for whatever reason, are not working full time, unrelated to some health issue, right? There are other programs in place with paid sick leave right now, paid family medical leave. Those programs have all been expanded federally. We have more expanded programs in Washington state. But with unemployment, also, again, along with the federal acts that have been passed, there is now an additional $600 per week base payment. So that the original base payment was quite low, and then other people might get more based on their income level, but there's an additional $600. ESD reported this week that they are ready to start pushing those payments. I believe starting next week. That will happen automatically, and they're set to do it retroactively, back to the time when those should have started. And again, this is just about logistics and getting the money out. So again, ESD in Washington manages that program. Website is esd.wa.gov. If you are not already set up for alerts, do get set up for alerts if you need to be connected with that system. If you are not set up with an online account, recommend that you do that. I'm assuming everyone tuning in today at least has access to that. Of course, the great concern is for people who don't have internet access. Might be a good time for no contact Wi-Fi sharing for your neighbors so that they can get some. That would be a great way to help people who don't have internet access. And that's because the phone lines are really, really heavy right now. ESD is going dark tomorrow, so Saturday, so that they can update their systems to be ready for all this. But they've got additional hours that their online systems and phone systems will be working on Monday. That agency has done a great job of pulling in workers from all sorts of other agencies. So one, that $600 is set to come. Number two, they are now ready to start doing the pandemic unemployment assistance. So I read that one, so I got it right. Pandemic unemployment assistance. So normally the way unemployment works is that the money that's taken out of your check every month with L&I, Social Security, unemployment goes and pays into the pots of money that are in these different programs. So if you pay into the system and you have enough hours, then you qualify for unemployment. Well, that's great for people who have paid into the system because they're normal employees and they're full-time and they've been at their jobs for a while. But there are lots of people out there who were not full-time, they were part-time, or they were new workers, or they were like gig workers or independent contractors. And I got calls about this really early on about, well, how do I get something? Like I don't have anything. And fortunately, the federal legislation created this pandemic unemployment assistance. So if you didn't already qualify for unemployment, you should apply again. And what unemployment or ESD has said they're doing is once you get denied, there's a new link. So a little extra button you can press to then apply for this separate assistance. Now, the reason is you have to not qualify for the regular unemployment in order to qualify for this. So go through the process again, be persistent, and you might now qualify even if you didn't qualify before. So again, ESD really working hard to get this pushed and to get the information out there. Let's see, anything else about unemployment? Doesn't look like it. So again, stay in touch on that program. I'll keep working on updating the resources on my firm website. I'm set to create a page on my own webpage as well for more information there. Other random things. Anybody have to renew their driver's license this year? I did. But fortunately, I did that about a month and a half ago, a couple months ago. Must have been more than a month and a half ago now. So just a couple months ago. So I was able to do that. I actually had to go in person because I hadn't gone in person in a while. But Department of Licensing has said, again, and this is based on all of these different orders that are getting issued from the governor's office and beyond, that you have an additional 90 days to get your driver's license renewed, and you should be able to do it online. Now, that may shift or change. Like I said, this year I had to go in person. That might still be the case, but at least you have an extra 90 days. So always verify this information. The website for that is dol.wa.gov. So that's Department of Licensing, dol.wa.gov. So again, lots of random different things. So something a little more business side oriented. Labor and Industries, as a reminder, there's they manage paid sick leave, they manage workplace safety, and then they also collect their own premiums that then pay into the workers' comp system. So again, one thing people don't always remember is that L&I has a employer assistance program. So if you are in a position as a business right now that you cannot pay your premiums, basically you cannot pay your workers' comp taxes right now, you can apply through that employer assistance program to try to get some relief. Again, lots of just different avenues to explore, to get support, to get help during this time. Just crazy, right? Everything that's going on. And so some of these programs have already been in place, like employer assistance program has been there for a while, but now is a good time to access it if you haven't before. And that's, again, in order to get some relief from your tax payments. That's LNI, as in the letters L, labor, N, as in Nancy, I, as in industries.wa.gov. Another thing to be thinking about from the business side are these payroll protection program loans / grants, depending on how that plays out. Now, these are all these different emergency grants that are going on. We had a statewide grant program for the Department of Commerce. Those applications have closed for Whatcom County. We have maxed those out. My advice to businesses are just keep watching for that, because more money might come. I don't know that it will on the statewide program, but of course, just constantly work with your financial providers, watch the websites to see if that opens up. For the federal, one of the federal programs, the payroll protection program, PPP loans, those funds have already maxed out. So I think I can't remember the exact numbers ones, but I think it's about 340 million or billion. Gosh, I should have written that down, but all of that money has already been committed. So again, what you need to do is still apply. So they are not processing any more loans right now, because the huge amount of funds that has been allocated has already been met. The applications go through your lenders. That's both Small Business Administration, so federal level, SBA, their approved lenders. They've also expanded that to a whole bunch of other banks. They've also expanded it to programs like Square and PayPal that normally you wouldn't go through them for this kind of loan, but they wanted to keep it as expansive as possible. Still apply. It's a first come, first serve basis. The expectation from most experts is that the federal government, the legislature, will again fund that program, that more money might be coming or is likely to come. So don't wait for it to be renewed later. Go ahead and keep applying, keep working with your lender, and then maybe you'll be on the list if more funds come through. Another random thing for people like the Department of Licensing is a lot of utility companies have reminded people that they have bill credit programs and help programs. So always check, call. One of my advice to people often is you cannot win the lotto if you do not buy a ticket. The answer is no if you do not ask. So always check. The worst thing that an organization could do is tell you no, and then you're no worse off than you already were, right? So if you're struggling with your bills or your utilities, contact your company, look into their credit programs, look into their deferment programs, their relief programs. Another thing on taxes, of course, is this Wednesday was not the tax refund, like the individual tax return filing deadline. That has been moved to July 15th. And more importantly, it has now been clarified that interest and penalties will not be occurring during this interim period. So you don't need to actually file an extension. It's automatic. And in the interim, taxes and interest and penalties will not be incurring. And so that was updated information from the IRS. Similarly, for businesses, B&O taxes, which if you report annually would have been due or coming up due. And if you reported quarterly, same thing. So if you're an annual reporter of your B&O taxes as a business here in Washington State, Department of Revenue has moved the annual filing deadline to June 15th and has moved the first quarter filing deadline to June 30th. So that's dor.wa.gov. Again, if you have the ability to do online access Washington, all these long online programs, they're all interfacing now in a much better way. So certainly recommend that. The last thing that I want to talk about access and resources right now related to COVID-19 is charitable giving. So one of the important things that was done, and I'm just checking my notes. Yes, it was under the CARES Act. So one of the things done under the CARES Act is that it implemented changes to the tax code. And it did two things that encourage charitable giving. One, it allows now for a $300 above the line tax credit for donations to charity. So this is for individual reporters. Above the line, meaning you get the credit even if you take the standard deduction. Most people these days with the big tax changes are taking the standard deduction. So now you can take this separate above the line credit up to $300 for charitable giving. It's a little unclear if that will be just for 2020 or if that will continue in the future. The language in the bill itself doesn't look like language that lasts beyond 2020, but it reads like language that lasts beyond 2020. I am not a CPA. Talk with your tax professional about that. But for 2020, this is why it matters. You can give up to $300 to charity and take that as a tax credit. So what's wonderful about that is that it's encouraging something we do as Americans already, which is charitable giving, taking care of each other. And so that's a wonderful benefit that now you can get with your taxes as well. The other thing is for those of you out there who have the ability to give big. The other change to the tax code is, at least for 2020, the 60% of income cap on charitable giving deductions is gone. So you can now do up to 100%. So for those out there who are able to give really big donations, you have the ability to do that now. The other one, and I don't have the exact figures right now, I think maybe it's a shift from 10% to 25%, is that businesses that do food services and can do food donations now have the ability to have more tax credit for that and more tax benefit for that. So again, this is trying to encourage people to spread the food around. And boy, is that a wonderful thing right now when people are hurting and they're hungry. And so I, again, check with your tax professional. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I do know that there was also an increase in the amount that you can give in just food, and I think something related to that. So wonderful changes. So those are my basic updates for virus resources and COVID resources. Again, because of the work that I do, I'm staying on top of all those issues and that information. I will do my best to keep it updated as we go along. So questions now, moving on to the next step. We had some questions come in, and so I'm going to do my best to answer those real quick. The first question I got is, what is the county clerk and do they work for the judges? So the county clerk is a separate position, separate constitutional position, and they are in charge of record keeping. So they're the ones that keep the court files. They do, of course, work with the judges. The records are being created in files and courtrooms with the judges, but the clerk and the clerk employees are responsible for maintaining those records. The clerk does not work for the judge or the judges. And actually, there was a new Washington State Supreme Court case that came out this year involving Franklin County that made it very, very clear that judges cannot dictate to the court what to do with file management. There was a dispute that arose. It worked its way all the way up, and that was resolved. So it was an interesting question, and that's the answer. I did get questions about my criminal experience and what I had done there. So as I mentioned earlier, I back up as a prosecutor for the city of Linden and have been able to do that for a number of years now with Carmichael Clark. I have done pro temming in criminal hearings and courtrooms. And then more importantly, when I was doing child protective services work at the state attorney general's office, the type of work I did was very similar to the criminal docket work. There's mandatory constitutional driven hearings, very, very high volume. I think I maxed out at about 200 cases that I was managing at once. Stacked calendars where you've got a bunch of cases and you've got 17 cases you're trying to prep for trial. You have the burden of proof. You're, again, worried about constitutional implications and evidentiary concerns, managing a lot of different things. And then there was a lot of crossover. Some of the same communities were spending time on the criminal docket as well, or involved there. So though that's the experience that I have with regards to criminal practice. And again, mix that with all of my other practice experience in all the different civil areas. Everything from land use. I worked on a big water case recently for a family out in the county. I've done real estate disputes. I've done business transactions and disputes, probate matters. I've gotten to continue doing family law, specifically with vulnerable adults and elderly, and just a whole bunch of other personal injury cases. Like I said, I've been really lucky, but also intentional as a lawyer to try to take on every single type of case that I possibly could. I spent many years at the AG's office, and now I've had many years in private practice doing all of that. Another question I was sent was, what can you do to modernize the court? So again, talking about court improvement. As I mentioned early on, that's one of the reasons I'm running. We have an interesting opportunity right now, which is this crisis that we are all dealing with is hitting a lot of our institutions really hard. I think it's making us rethink, how do you do schooling? What do we do about court access when you can't access the building all the time? And I think now is a great opportunity to be thinking about technology. There are ways to do hearings with video testimony. I know, I've done it. There are ways to do telephonic appearances, which we do have that, but it's unusual to do video appearances. I am admitted to practice in the Western District of Washington, so that's federal district court. It's online filing. There are systems in place that allow you to log in, upload your documents, file them, and for small motions where there doesn't need to be oral argument, meaning you're in the courtroom making argument, they get ruled on based on the written pleadings. I also am asked sometimes to do kind of specific specialized cases in down in King County. And in King County, same thing. They have electronic filing. So I think we can get there. And I think now is the time to be thinking about technology, how we can use that better. Of course, funding is always an issue, but I think we can get there, and I think I can help get us there. The other thing is, I've had the opportunity to direct strategic planning. So back when I was in law school and I went to Gonzaga, I don't know if you can see behind me, there's a couple of bobbleheads there that travel with me wherever my office is. So normally they're in my office at the law firm, but right now they're here at home. And one of them is, a belling hamster, Digger from our Bells. I'm a huge baseball fan. And the other is Spike, our Gonzaga mascot. So I went to Gonzaga undergrad and Gonzaga Law School. And while I was in law school, I served on the board of directors for an organization that has now become Crime Stoppers. It had been around in Spokane for decades upon decades. So little old me, another attorney, a bunch of business folks, and basically all the law enforcement leaders in the county would get together, and we as an organization would hear from those law enforcement leaders about what cases they were working on where they thought there should be a monetary award for tips. So it's a tips program that had been around. And I was really lucky to serve on that organization with another woman who was a professional strategic planner. And she used her skills to help do some updating of their organization, which ultimately led eventually down the line to being part of Crime Stoppers and a sort of an affiliate of that. But I got to watch her work and we got to work together. And then, fast forward a decade or so, maybe a decade and a half, and I'm on the board of directors for Law Advocates. And we were kind of at the beginning of strategic plan process. It wasn't continuing on. I was stepping up as chair and I took the reins. And I talked with all of our staff. I talked with our supporters, our champions, our community connections. I talked with our board, and I slowly walked through with all of them a strategic plan. We talked about how to make our organization better. I mean, first we talked about our organization, what we were doing, what we wanted to be doing. We set 3 great goals. We formed committees. I worked with the committees to set sub goals and tasks, and we were very successful. And I am lucky enough that I have had the experiences I've had to gain those skills. And I'm also lucky enough to get to work with wonderful people, and I get to take the time to listen to them and to understand what's not working, what's working really well, and what we can do to make it better. There is always room for improvement, both for ourselves and our own lives, but also for these big institutions. And like I said, I'm lucky enough that I've done it before. I'll do it again. And I'm excited to do it, hopefully, for our legal system and our local court. Technology, I think, is a big one, but there's also lots of other things that can be done to just improve how we process things for the betterment of all of us, the public, for the betterment of all the attorneys who are appearing in the courtroom, and then, of course, just for our society and our system in general. So that's how I can do what I can do and what I bring to the table, essentially with executive and administrative skills, in addition to my legal skills and my legal experience. So I think I got through all the questions that we received. Let me just make sure. I'm going to scroll down here. Bear with me. Let's see. Erica Elliott. Okay. She said she has to sign off. Oh, okay. Great, more I have to get going. Oh, great. Okay. I'm not seeing specific questions. Let me see. I'm going to open up. I might have full my screen. Okay. So there was a follow-up question. Okay, there we go. About the Triple P program. No, about the payment program. So I have been hearing that when people, so this is the economic impact payments, so these stimulus payments. I have been hearing that sometimes when people are logging in, they're getting a response saying that there's no answer to whether or not you're going to get paid. I've heard of now 2 occasions, one in this question and the other day. And so it got talked about in one of the trainings I was doing. And I think the advice was check on your filing status, confirm that you did file in 2018, or if you filed this year. If you haven't filed this year and you can, now would be a good time. If you think you're going to get a refund, right? Now may not be the time if you know you're going to have to pay money. So check on your filing status. Go through that portal, maybe try it again. I've heard that as well. Or I think maybe the best thing to do is to wait a couple of days and see if you can find the phone number. Those are the best advice, or that's the best advice I've heard so far. So log into the system, try. If it doesn't work, try again. Remember, we've got millions of people in the United States who are all looking for the same information as well. So it could just be a glitch in the system. Check your filing status. Go through the portal to update your status and your direct deposit information, just in case, and then kind of go from there. And for those of you who have the ability to private message on here, you can go ahead and follow up there. And if I find another way or a different answer, I will get back to you. So I'll look into that because I've heard that a little bit. I think then that is the last question. Everything else I answered as I was going along, or I left them for those particular questions. The other thing I always get questions about is how do I get involved to help? So my website is www.lisakeeler.com. You can find the Get Involved page, and it gives you a bunch of different options for ways to get involved. You're also welcome to email me at contact@lisakeeler.com. We have yard signs coming. Lots and lots of people have asked about yard signs. They are coming. And of course, we can do contactless delivery and placement. So that's contactless delivery and placement of those yard signs. So if you think you have a good spot, go ahead and contact us and we'll see if we can sort that out. We're also getting ready to start a voter contact. We want to be in touch with people, hear how they're doing, check in. If you're interested in having that as an activity to do while we're all staying home and staying safe and slowly transitioning back to kind of more and more activities in our life, please, again, go to the Get Involved page at lisakeeler.com. Email us at contact@lisakeeler.com. And then, as always, follow us on the website. Follow us here on Facebook at Elect Lisa Keeler. I do my best to post new videos every single week. And those are on YouTube as well as here on Facebook. You can also access them on my website. So you don't have to have a Facebook page to do that. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm so excited to be a part of Whatcom County. I love where I live. I think we have great people here. I really want to serve you as Whatcom County Superior Court Judge. This is hard. We will get through this. And when we get through this and you have the chance to vote, please remember to vote for Lisa Keeler for Whatcom County Superior Court Judge. Thank you all for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you someday, maybe even in person. If not, thank you for watching my videos, and I will be talking with you again soon. Have a great evening. Have a wonderful week. Bye now.